This is the new A12 4K monitor from Lilliput. This monitor has a true Ultra HD 12-inch diagonal screen, and it weighs only 960 grams, supports 4K resolution, and is affordably priced. What's more, it has 4 HDMI and an SDI inputs, with the ability to display 4 images at once. An amazing feature for a small studio. The color accuracy is pretty good. The monitor has all the important features like focus peaking, false color, center, and other markers. It is battery powered for field use. All in all, I'm very impressed with this new field monitor. This is Alan Hatfield for Personal View, and let's take a look at this exciting new monitor. I recently took this monitor on a shoot and was able to see that the camera was in focus and on target because of the 12.5 8-bit LCD panel, which has the physical resolution of 3840 by 2160, or 4K. There is a nice big image that has good bright color, and the brightness is declared by the manufacturer at 400 candelas per square meter, and a contrast ratio of 1500 to 1. This is typical for a good IPS panel. In addition to the 4 HDMI inputs and the 3G SDI, there is a DisplayPort input, a total of 6 inputs. It has a 3G SGI output. With this many inputs, many cameras can be monitored all at once. To change the monitor, just hit the F1 button and up comes this menu. Hit it 3 more times and now hit the round wheel and it will switch the monitor into 4 input mode. As you can see, there is now 4 images on this one monitor. All of them at 1080p because this is a 4K display. If you press F2, you can rotate the screen. Let's go 180 degrees. And now it will be upside down. Let's press F2 again, and this time go back to 0. And then hit. And we're back to normal. If you hit the power button, you may change your input by changing it with the wheel. And I'm going to go to input 3 and then I'm going to hit the wheel to take it. And now it will switch inputs. This is input 3. And now let's say I want to go back. I just hit the power button, take the wheel, and take it back to input 1. Which is right here, HDMI 1. As you can see, there's quite a few choices. Over the years, field broadcast quality monitors have been large, heavy, and expensive. This one is not, with a weight of 960 grams, and it measures 297.6 millimeters by 195 millimeters by 21.8 millimeters. The housing is durable, high-impact plastic. I mounted the monitor with the bottom 1/4-20 mounting point on a light stand. Since I was in the field, I put a Sony-style MP battery on the back of the monitor, and it just goes in and then you push it down. And now the monitor should come on. And it does, and it says no signal. The reason why is I have not plugged the HDMI in yet. And then you take the HDMI cable and plug it into HDMI 1. And now we see a camera, but you're hearing a horrible sound. So what you can do is just turn the volume down just by turning the menu wheel. As you can see, it goes away. That's a really loud sound. The cool thing about this is if you click the menu wheel, you can now adjust your brightness. Push it again, you got contrast. Push it again, you have sharpness. Push it again, you have backlight. And then push it again and you're back to normal. I will show you these when we talk about menus. Power consumption on a monitor is very important. Nobody wants to carry too many batteries. We tested the consumption in two scenarios. One is heavy usage with false color and peaking modes enabled, while the other is feeding the monitor with a 4K signal at 60 frames per second. Consumption reaches around 15.5 watts with the maximum backlight value. So the monitor will hold power for almost 4 hours with a typical Sony 970 type battery. The second scenario is typical and less demanding. Only focus peaking was enabled and the monitor is fed with a full HD signal at 30 frames per second. Consumption reaches around with 13.4 watts with the maximum backlight. In this mode, the monitor will hold about 2 hours and 40 minutes with a smaller Sony F750 type battery. The standby power consumption is very low, at around 65 milliwatts. The cutoff voltage is around 5.6 volts. That is not bad. For Sony type batteries, it is usually best to keep it around 6 volts. A 12-volt power supply is included with this monitor, and it plugs in over in the DC input. If you notice, the monitor has a red center mark and also a red frame which shows a safety area. Those come standard when the monitor boots up. The Lilliput A12 has lots of features and adjustments. You get to them by pushing the menu wheel. First one is picture. Push it once, and now I can adjust the brightness. You hit the menu wheel again, and now I am actually changing the brightness setting. Next, we'll go over to contrast, and you do the same thing to adjust it. Now let's go to the color space. You have the choice of native color space, which is wider than sRGB, and then you have Rec 709, which is sRGB, the standard broadcast color space. And now we click the wheel again and go to the next one, which is sharpness. And the sharpness can go up and down in major increments. Next we have is temperature. The temperature default is 6500. You can do 5800, you can do 7500, and you can do 9300. We'll put it back at 6500, which is close to daylight. And now let's go to brightness. The brightness can go down in 1% increments from 100 all the way down to 1. We'll put it back at 100. Next is backlight. The backlight can be adjusted down in 1% increments, or it can be put all the way back to 100. And that is all of the menus in the first menu. You hit this second button up here, which is the exit button next to the wheel, and it takes you to the next set of menus. The next menu is function, and the first function we can do is the center marker, and we can turn it on or off. The next is the safety marker, and that can go off 95%, 93%, 90%, 88%, 85%, and 80%. Let's go back to our 95%. And then there you have next the aspect marker, which is kind of interesting because it will give you a marker on the screen. There's full, 17 to 9, 16 to 9, 4-3, 1-8, 185 and 23521, which is CinemaScope. We'll go back to off. This next one is similar. When you hit full, it shows you the full screen. When you hit 17:9, it puts a slight black bar. 16:9 fills the screen. 4:3 puts pillar boxing. 185 does letterboxing. And of course, the CinemaScope does extreme letterboxing. Let's go back to full. Next is underscan, and that can be on or off. Next is pixel to pixel. Pixel to pixel will, if you turn it on, will actually show you the actual resolution of your camera, which is this one is a 1080p camera. Off, it shows the full image. Check field, you can actually look at your red channel, your green channel, and your blue channel. Or you can go back to normal. Freeze does exactly what it says it does. It freezes the image. The freeze is on right now. If I turn it off, you'll see I have movement again. With peaking, we can turn it on or off. Peaking helps with focusing, so we'll leave it on. False color, you can turn on, and this is used for exposure. And we can turn it off. And then you hit the back button to take you back to the main menu page. The next option in the main menu is display mode. This is where it gets fun. You can select 2P, L, and R for right and left with two images. The next one to choose is 2PT, where they puts the top and bottom. Hit the menu again. Let's go to 1 and 2 PIP, which is your picture in a picture. Two images, one screen, normal aspect ratio on both. And then of course, we get to go to my favorite mode, which is the 4 screen, or 4P. Back in the day, I would have to have 4 separate monitors to do the same job. This is way cool. Next, we're going to go to display setting, which has 2 items. The first being rotate. That looks very weird rotated. So let's go to 180 degrees. That's more fun. That's upside down. 270 is weird as well. But that is a choice. And now we go back to 0. And that puts our monitor back to where it should be. And now it's display setting. Now we get to go to input. Input's really cool because you can actually change the input. I'm going to go to input 2 now on the monitor. So it's displaying the second one coming into my monitor. If I go back to input again, I can go to the next one and it will display it as well. But for this demonstration, we'll put input back on HDMI 1. In here, you have your SDI, the HDMI 1, HDMI 2, HDMI 3, HDMI 4, the DVI, and Auto is the last one. Auto chooses whichever one has an input. So if I was to pull all these cables, the one that remained would stay. But let's go back out of there and go back to HDMI 1. And that is input. Next is audio. And you can change your volume. And of course, we wanted to change the volume because we would hear an echo, so we turned it down. The next is your choice of audio source, and you only have one choice on audio source, and that's just digital. And that is audio. And now we have system. System is a very busy menu because the first one allows you to reset everything, and I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to hit reset. The next one is how long do I want this menu that you're looking at to stay on the screen. I moved it to the middle so I could have it here for demonstration purposes. It actually is a lot shorter. The next is the on-screen position of the menu. As you can see, it goes left and right. And then the next one is up and down. The next is language, and you have your choices of English and Chinese. I'll leave it in English. I like this one called transparency. This allows you to actually make the menu be able to be seen on top of the image, so you can actually see what's behind the menu. And so for demonstration purposes, I will put it back up higher so we can see what we're doing. The next is rotate, and that rotates the on-screen display. And last but not least is the border width. And you say, what is border width? Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to put it all the way up at 10. And then go to the next menu item, which is border color. And we're going to put it on, let's say, blue. To see what blue border does, let's hit F1 and then go to our quad display. And you can see now there's a blue line between each of the displays. I actually like that very much. Next menu item, and it is the last menu item, is the information. What's coming into this monitor. It tells you the signal that's coming into each input. And you can see, as you can see here, there's 4. And you hit exit, and we are done with the menus. The one thing I did not see in the menus, which I would like to have, is the ability to program function 1 and function 2. They are nowhere to be found in the menus. In the box is the monitor, this DC power adapter, this HDMI 2.0 cable, a sunshade, a Versa battery plate with screws to mount it, a shoe adapter for your camera to put it on top of your camera and mount the monitor, Allen wrench. Also are these 3 thumb screws, and they are for holding the supplied sunshade. The supplied sunshade goes up top, and you just screw these little screws into the mounting points on the monitor, like so. And then we do this one on the side, and we do the other one on the other side. And now you have a nice sunshade on your monitor. Let's finally look at a thermal camera time lapse of the monitor while it is working with a 4K signal and running on battery. As you can see, the monitor becomes It's just slightly warm in areas. To remove the battery, you just push the button in the back and it slides up like so, and the monitor goes off. This was a detailed overview of the Lilliput A12, a very good 4K field monitor. Make sure to return to check for a detailed usage review and more laboratory measurements of this monitor. You can find a link to measurements in the description below, and we will also add a review link. Remember to subscribe to the Personal View YouTube channel and turn on notifications. And we will see you soon.